Imagine a world where gym bros, death row inmates, and TikTok thirst traps all merged into one very confused profession. Congratulations. You're thinking of Roman gladiators. Because the Romans didn't just invent highways and aqueducts, they invented the celebrity death match. No CGI, just sweat, steel, and questionable hygiene. Welcome to ancient Rome, where violence was the Wi-Fi. Always on, always glitchy, and somehow essential. If ancient Greece gave us naked sports and olive oil, Rome said, hold my wine. Let's watch people fight to the death for fun. And not just any people. Criminals, prisoners of war, broke dudes chasing fame, and a few men who looked at their life choices and asked, what should I do with my life? Got it. Violence as a job. These were the gladiators. Part athlete, part prisoner, part reality show contestant who signed the contract without reading it. Gladiator schools were called ludi, but don't let the cute name fool you. These places made boot camp look like a day at the spa. Once you entered, you weren't leaving unless you had an early death, a rich sponsor, or abs you could grate Parmesan on. They shaved your head, branded you, locked you in a tiny cell and said, all right, time to learn how to kill people. Like you're auditioning for Rome's Got Talent, Murder Edition. Trainers didn't care about your hopes, your dreams, or your childhood trauma. They cared about two things: you staying alive long enough to make money, and if you died, dying in a way that made the crowd cheer. Wow, 10 out of 10 would watch again. Let's talk diet. Gladiators ate almost nothing but carbs. Bread, porridge, pasta, basically the ancient Roman version of bulking season. They were walking lasagnas with biceps. But wait, it gets worse. To strengthen their bones, they drank a special tonic made of vinegar and human ashes. Yes, human ashes. Imagine drinking the cremated remains of some guy named Titus because your coach said it builds bone density. And don't forget the classic Roman mouthwash, urine. That's right, gladiators didn't just suffer, they suffered hydrated in pee. Minty fresh? No. Ammonia fresh? Always. Now enter the Colosseum. The NFL, the UFC, and a midlife crisis rolled into one. This wasn't a quiet arena. It was chaos like a Black Friday at Walmart. Rich senators flexing in the VIP seats, pretending to be classy while Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at every kill. Peasants from the nosebleeds still screaming like they were courtside at the NBA Finals. Everyone came for the same reason: to watch dumb decisions play out in real time. And the gladiators? No, there wasn't one type of gladiator. Rome said, let's get creative with the violence. You had the murmillo, big shield, big sword, big ego. The gym bro archetype. The retiarius, net and trident, basically a fisherman with rage issues. The thrakes, tiny shield, curved sword, lots of overconfidence. And the classic matchup, the secutor versus the retiarius. The ultimate angry Chad versus slippery little fish boy matchup. Every fight was a cosplay convention, but with extra blood and less consent. Were they always trying to kill each other? Sometimes, sometimes not. It depended on the budget. Here's the part Hollywood gets wrong. Not every fight was to the death. Gladiators were expensive. They were the NFL quarterbacks of ancient Rome, except instead of concussions, they had, well, slightly more concussions. Owners didn't want their investments dying every weekend, so a lot of matches were scripted, rigged, or planned out like WWE storylines. Except nobody told the gladiators, hey, by the way, this is fake. Rome loved drama. They loved violence, loved gambling. Put those together and you get rigged fights, cheated bets, and fans screaming, bro, I put a month's salary on you, don't die yet. And yes, gladiators were sex symbols. Women loved them, loved them. The Roman poet Martial literally wrote about wives cheating with sweaty men who hadn't bathed since the last emperor. Gladiators were the ancient version of, yeah, he's toxic. Yeah, he makes bad decisions. Yeah, he's probably gonna die next week. But damn those forearms. Rich Roman women would leave love notes, lockets, or even themselves in the gladiators' quarters. Actual quote from history. A gladiator's sweat was bottled and sold as perfume. Imagine walking into Sephora and asking, hi, do you have the scent that smells like fear, testosterone, and mild infections? Rome had that. Even politicians got in on the hype because nothing gets votes like free bloodshed. They sponsored massive events just for clout. One guy literally bankrupted himself buying hundreds of fights just to look cool. This is the Roman equivalent of buying Twitter blue for clout. The crowd didn't care about politics. They wanted drama, violence, and someone yelling, "Are you not entertained?" in Latin. And that's just the beginning. Now, you've met the training, the diet, the hype, the weapons, and the absolute stupidity that made gladiators ancient Rome's thirst-trap murder athletes. Because we still haven't talked about the animal fights, the executions disguised as theater, the gambling addictions, the sex scandals, the fan obsession, the thumbs-up, thumbs-down myth, the famous gladiators who became too popular for their own safety, and the absolutely unhinged ways Rome loved to kill criminals for crowd entertainment. Now let's talk about the part of gladiator life that even Hollywood refuses to touch, the animal fights. Because Rome didn't just say, "Let's have men fight men." They said, "Let's throw lions, tigers, bears, rhinos, leopards, wolves, crocodiles, and whatever else we can kidnap from Africa into the arena and see what happens." It was basically National Geographic, but on crack. Some mornings at the Colosseum looked like a zoo breakout run by a guy who failed every safety course ever invented. And guess who had to deal with all these animals? Gladiators, with nothing but a spear, a bad attitude, and a prayer to a god they probably didn't even worship. If the animals didn't kill you, the next part might, the executions. Because Rome didn't believe in boring punishments. No. Rome said, what if we turn the death penalty into a Broadway musical with blood? They dressed criminals up as mythological characters and forced them to reenact myths that ended, you guessed it, with the main character dying. One guy had to play Orpheus and got mauled by a real bear. Another had to play Hercules and burned alive on stage. It was the world's first combination of theater, torture, and very confused audience members. Now, let's talk gambling. Because Rome didn't have casinos, but they had something much worse. Men with too much wine and not enough financial literacy. Gladiator betting was so out of control that people literally lost houses, fortunes, inheritances, and in one guy's case, his wife. Yes, he gambled away his wife over a fight between two sweaty dudes with swords. Imagine explaining that divorce. And if you thought fans today are obsessed, Rome invented fan culture. People collected gladiator merch, painted their names on walls, wore pendants with their faces, and screamed like it was a Beyoncé concert, but with more decapitations. Some fans were so insane they would fight each other after the fights just to prove their gladiator was better. Congratulations. You've just met ancient Rome's version of sports Twitter. But nothing, and I mean nothing, beats the sex scandals. Because gladiators weren't just athletes. They were the original forbidden fantasies. Rich Roman women snuck into gladiator barracks like it was a VIP section at the club. Affairs were so common that one emperor banned senators' wives from even looking at gladiators because they kept running off with them. One woman bragged that she preferred gladiators because they smelled like real men. Ma'am, they smelled like dried sweat, iron, and several untreated medical conditions. But off you go, I guess. Some gladiators became so famous the emperors got jealous. There were guys who couldn't walk down the street without being mobbed like ancient celebrities. And that leads us to the biggest myth of all, the thumbs up and thumbs down. Hollywood lied. Thumbs up did not mean spare him. Thumbs down did not mean kill him. The Romans actually used a closed fist to spare, and an open hand, like a slash, to kill. So basically, the fate of your mortal soul depended on whether a drunk Roman wiggled his hand in the correct direction. Beautiful culture. And yes, some gladiators actually won their freedom. If you survived long enough and didn't get eaten, stabbed, crushed, or emotionally destroyed, your owner could grant you a wooden sword called a rudis. It meant you were free. It was the ancient version of retiring, except your pension was trauma. But here's the plot twist. Some freed gladiators chose to keep fighting. They said, freedom is cool, but have you tried being famous, sweaty, and one bad decision away from instant death? Look, I never said these men were smart. And that is the world of Roman gladiators. A place where violence was entertainment, urine was mouthwash, sweat was perfume, animals were weapons, and the audience cheered like their lives depended on it. Ancient Rome didn't need Netflix. They had the Colosseum, and it was louder, bloodier, and way more unhinged than anything we could ever stream today. If you enjoyed this historical train wreck, do the 3 sacred rituals. Hit like, hit subscribe, and sacrifice a comment to the almighty algorithm. Tell me what era of human stupidity you want me to unravel next.